All right, 24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's the last Friday of 2013, Robin. The last Friday. For those of you who are, what's the word for being afraid of the number 13? It's tricephalophobia or something like that, right?
I guess so. Paranoid is my
something crazy.
word.
So the whole year, they've all been nervous. All those people. Well, you're just about done with it. We're up to 2014, and while that was just a silly comment, that really wasn't. I wasn't intending to be serious with that. But you might want to have some information about making your financial security a little bit more secure. Donna Skeels Cygan has agreed to be with us, and we're so glad she's on the phone with us. She is the owner and president of Sage Future Financial. I hope I said that right. She is quoted in the biggies, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Forbes magazine, Kiplinger's, recognized as one of the top financial advisors in the United States. And her book is called The Joy of Financial Security, the Art and Science of Becoming Happier, Managing Your Money Wisely, and Creating a Secure Financial Future. So from this point on, we're all ears as we listen to Donna Skeels Cygan. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Larry. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for being patient with us. And I apologize if did the echo go away a little bit? I'm always curious, because I can't hear it on my end. Does it go away once we go on the air?
I think it's gone. I think we're in great shape.
Oh, good. See, I don't know how that works. It seems like when we're on hold, there's or like off the air, there's an echo. Well, anyway, thank you, Donna, for being with us today. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it is 7:37 here, and the city is just starting to bustle, but it's much earlier than it is in Florida.
I know. So thank you for doing that. But I wanted to tell you, I love Albuquerque.
Albuquerque's a great city. But I love Florida too.
You've been here?
Oh my gosh, yes. I have fabulous memories. When I was a child, I lived in Evansville, Indiana, and every August we would all pile in the car and drive to Clearwater, Florida. So I have wonderful memories of all of Florida, but especially Clearwater.
Oh, excellent.
It's beautiful down there, yeah.
Well, we're a mutual admiration club here. We love your city. You love our state, sounds like. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. This is one of the most interesting topics, I think, when it comes to money, because here's why. Because we all know somebody who's doing really well financially. In other words, they're making a good living, but they don't look like it. And if you were to look inside their books, which we don't really have a privilege to do that, but you would probably see that they just, for some reason, don't have anything put away. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, you know the guy who's like managing the little grocery store, who doesn't really make a lot of money, but he's been doing it for 20 or 30 years, and he's got $500,000 put away.
Yeah.
Right? Uh-huh. It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's what's interesting about this topic.
Well, and I found when I did the research that having financial security is not a number. You know, it doesn't require having 50,000 or 500,000 or any number put away. It has to do with our happiness. And I started researching this about 10 years ago when I noticed that my clients who had a really healthy relationship with money were much happier overall. And I realized there's definitely a connection there between the way we handle our money and our happiness. And then there's other people who really struggle with money, and somebody described that to me as the trappings of money, and we never want to fall into that category. And so I started researching it from an economic standpoint, and certainly psychology and neuroscience, and I just found it fascinating. And so my conclusion was money does not buy happiness. It definitely does not, but it impacts it in a huge way.
And especially when one person is earning money and the other person isn't. I mean, you have to have a balance there, because you don't want to, step over the line, and then, you get annoyed if somebody says you can't have something and that type of thing too.
Yeah, money has a huge amount of emotional baggage, or it's just an enormous power in our society. If it were only the bills and the coins in our purse or our wallets, it'd be so much simpler. But it carries a lot of power in our society, and I think that's why we need to really make an effort to have a healthy relationship with it, and also to discuss it. I think, Robin, what you're describing, oftentimes people will not talk about money, and so there are those emotions and sometimes negative emotions if one spouse earns more than the other, and it just creates a lot of tension, and if it can be communicated, it's so much healthier.
Are you familiar with Clark Howard, the radio host and TV host? Clark Howard?
Am I familiar with him? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Clark Howard, yes.
Okay, because he's one of the shows that we carry as a syndicated show, and I was listening.
good.
I was listening to him earlier this week, or maybe a week ago or so, and he was talking to a young person. I don't remember how old. 17, 18 maybe. It was very young. And basically he was saying that he worked in as a minimum wage employee somewhere. And he wanted advice on how to buy a house. And so Clark Howard said to him, well, you're going to have to put some money away. You're going to need, I think he said, I can't remember what percentage he needed to put away. But he said, this is what you got to look at. You got to look at the soda that you drink every day. You got to look at the things you spend $1.69 on a soda. That adds up after the course of a year. You know, those little things. So while that seems like common sense, I think if you hear it from somebody, especially somebody with authority like yourself,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, maybe we take it to heart more. What do you think? There's a psychological element to that, isn't there?
Well, definitely, and that's so pervasive. You know, we run by and buy our expensive coffee, and that's $4 a day or something. It's a huge number when you add it up. And so what I found is that, well, first of all, let me pull one more concept into this conversation, and that is that we have control over 40% of our happiness. And I didn't know that. There's really strong psychology research that shows 60% of our happiness is impacted by our genetics and our environment, and that leaves 40% that we control. And we control it through our behaviors and our actions and our attitudes. And so what you're describing, Larry, in terms of Clark Howard recommending that you don't buy that soda every day, you know, that's part of what we have control of. And so I encourage people to take control of their finances and to realize that we have an enormous amount of control. I think sometimes people feel like they don't have control over their money, but they do. And that's a perfect example of not buying that soda. And the percentage that I recommend people put away is 15 to 20, which sounds really difficult. But if you start cutting back on things and you put that money aside, it's really not that difficult. And then if I can bring in one more concept, which I really love, and that's the idea of keeping up with the Joneses. And it's so toxic in our environment. And so I encourage people to be very deliberate in deciding they're not going to keep up with the Joneses, which is a great thing for 2014.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you know, you've got a car that's 6 years old, you know, stretch it to 8, 10, 12 years. You don't need another big screen TV. All of those types of things, including the soda every day, you know, it can be moved over into starting an emergency fund, starting some investments, and a few years later, you've got enough money to put a down payment on a house.
That's really true. You know, when we were talking, we started out talking about Albuquerque in Florida, and you were in Indiana, I think you said, and so traveling has always been something that we've always embraced as Americans. Maybe not all of us, but I'll just speak for myself. So if I had any one thing I just wanted to blow money on, it would be traveling. I would rather travel than have 365 sodas in a year. You know what I mean?
You know, and
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that because that's an experience. And, you know, I have to use my husband as an example. He loves to travel, and when he was younger, he would spend any money he had on traveling. And so he's done a lot of traveling through Canada, through the U.S., not a lot abroad. And he was telling me the other day that one of the happiest points in his life was when he was in graduate school. He had no money, but when he did get some money because he was working, he spent it on traveling. And so it wasn't a matter of having enough money to do anything extravagant.
Right.
But, you know, he did what he loved, and that was traveling. And so that's the idea of spending money on experiences rather than on things. You know, in your case, Larry, you'd probably rather go on a trip and have new experiences rather than have another big screen TV. And so that's part of having that healthy relationship with money.
That is exactly true. In fact, as I was looking for gifts to give to people this gift-giving season, I was thinking, I didn't actually go this way, but I was thinking instead of buying tangible things, to get them like a cruise or tickets to somewhere, you know, that kind of thing.
I love that idea, and I actually do encourage that, and that would be spending money on experiences rather than things. And the things that we buy for each other, all those gifts, you know, they're quickly forgotten, but those experiences are so rich, and focusing on family and friends rather than the materialistic side of more things is very powerful, and it helps us get that healthy relationship with money, and it also frees up more money to get the financial security that we want.
And you've written an extremely unique book because it's not all about the finances. It's not boring. It's a very insightful look into the life of a human. You even have one section on there that's titled Laugh More. I mean, you've really done an excellent job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Robin. You know, I put a lot of my heart and soul into the book, and it was interesting. It went through 12 reviewers, and one of the questions I posed to all of them was, do these personal stories need to go? And 2 reviewers came back saying, yes, I think they're too personal, and this should be more like a finance textbook. And the other 10 said, absolutely not. You keep those in there because they make it real, and they help other people think about their pasts and you know, really rich stories from our childhood. And
Good for you.
Most of the stories survived, and I'm really happy that they did.
You know, we had the privilege of speaking to one of the 3 ladies that started the Elf on the Shelf phenomenon, and the one we spoke to is the mother. If you don't know the story, there's a mother and 2 grown daughters, and they're twins, right?
Yes.
And the story was that when the girls were little, the mother would put this elf on a shelf, and it was part of their own little family tradition. And when the girls grew up, the mother was kind of empty nest sad, sad from, the children were no longer home. And but she still kept the tradition up, even though there were no longer kids, to see this elf on the shelf, which was supposed to be Santa's liaison to make sure they were being good. Anyway, so the girls came home. They saw the elf on the shelf. They were so touched that mom was still doing this, even though they weren't there. And they said, we should write this as a book. They went to every publisher. Every one of them turned them down. They decided to publish it themselves. And 8 years later, only 8 years, they have now sold how many? 8 million?
Yes, 8 million.
8 million of these things, and it's unbelievable. And
that's an incredible story. I need to go buy that book because I love that story, and I have not heard it. So I'm glad you shared it with me.
Well, I don't know that they put that in the book. We dragged that out of her when we had her as a guest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is they were taking something that made themselves happy and actually invested their retirement money into it, which you might be against recommending, but that's what they chose to do. And it worked out for them. I'm guessing a lot of people have invested their retirement funds and lost it all, though.
Did they invest it in getting the book out? Is that what they did?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I've been saving for 6 years to promote this book, and so people have told me that I'm spending more than the average person, and I've just been, I say to them, but I've been saving for 6 years because this was so important to me. This was one of my goals, was to finish this book and get it out, get the word out. I really wanted to reach people so that they can realize there's this wonderful connection, and you really can become financially secure and happier. I just think it's a powerful message.
Well, that is awesome.
So I'm having fun with it.
And you also expressed you don't have to be a gazillionaire to be putting money away. Even if it's a few dollars a week, that's a step in the right direction. I mean, you allow people to have outside activities like go to the movies, go out to dinner or something, but and then they'll still have enough money, just set aside a couple of dollars a week just for the future investing.
Oh, definitely. I think it pertains to everybody, regardless of where you are with your finances. And when I first started the book, it was geared more towards my clients. And somehow, I don't really know how this happened, but I just started attracting clients who were very responsible with their money. They tended to be close to retirement or they're retired, and they've always been good savers and investors, and that became my niche. And so the book was initially meant for them. But what I'm finding is that it's reaching people who cover, the entire range. People who have never been able to save $1 are learning how to do that, up to the people who may have enough money, but they don't have the joy, and they need both. And so, hopefully it's reaching a very broad audience, and people are really getting some benefit from it.
And that is one of the things that makes this book unique. And Robin and I both observed that the connection between money and happiness, and also the disconnect In other words, there is a relationship, but sometimes there's not a relationship, and you've been able to illustrate that with the stories, and that is very unique. And I'm with the people, the reviewers who told you to keep in the stories. By the way, I guess I can see the cold, hard, accountant opinion of this, but at the same time, you want to reach more people. You don't want to just reach accountants.
I do, and I'm glad that you come out on that side. I should also tell you that several weeks ago, somebody interviewed me, and they started out with a question that really threw me and also made me think. So the question was this. She just started the interview by saying, it looks like you've got this financial thing all figured out. And is that true? And I thought for a second, and I said, I am good on the financial side. My parents taught me to save and save for a rainy day, and so I have strong money messages, and I'm very grateful for that. But the whole happiness side has me totally, thrown for a loop. And so people are in different places. It's not that I was unhappy, but that I'm such a workaholic. I never took the time to find the joy and to find the balance and to be creative. And, I just work. And so I think people are at a different point. And in my case, I needed to be reminded, and for 6 years, writing this and doing the research, I slowly started seeing progress. It certainly wasn't something that happened rapidly because my bad habits were very deeply ingrained. But I started seeing progress, and that's, I think, the benefit of it. It's a very slow process to chip away at those bad habits.
Well, and just so you know, Rob and I speak to authors all the time, and the ones that have best-selling books typically are investing. It's probably harder for an author to market a book than it is to write the book, because you have your niche, you know what you want to write about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. But selling it is often not your cup of tea, and yet it has to be in order for this to be successful. So I think you're doing the exact right thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't one of the bestsellers of the year. Is this a brand new book?
Oh, my goodness. That's so exciting to hear you say that. It was published on November 1st. But it is hard to reach the people. It is challenging. You're so right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just so you know, Donna, let's see if I can drop some big names. We're not a big station, just so you know. Well, our audience is estimated to be, 10 or 12,000?
Yeah.
At any given time. So we're not Howard Stern, we're not Rush Limbaugh, we're not reaching millions with one shot. However, we even have the Dean Koontz. Dean Koontz comes on.
Yeah. Debbie Macomber
comes on. Peter Max, the artist, comes on. And the reason they come on is because they know that it's just like investing. Lots of small audiences is a really good way, even though it takes more of your time. The Today Show is a good opportunity, too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we've had people on from the Today Show, too.
Yeah.
So we're very eclectic.
I totally agree with you, and I'm happy to put as much time into it as I can because I just want to reach everybody. And I totally agree. It's not important to, get on those big, well-known things. I'd much rather just reach out to people where they live. So I'm thrilled to be on your show.
You also address creativity in your book. You make sure that that's in the forefront, because a person has to be themselves to be successful in anything. They can't copycat somebody else and expect to be successful.
Well, creativity is one of those things that I was fascinated by it. I quote Twyla Tharp, the well-known choreographer.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And she wrote this fascinating book about creativity, which just totally caught me off guard in that it said there's nothing genetic about creativity. We're not necessarily born creative, because if that were true, I would always just assume I'm not creative. But it takes that deliberate effort to start practicing. And in Twyla Tharp's case, she talks about she lives in New York City in Manhattan, and she gets up at some ungodly hour, like 4:30 or in the morning or 5, and heads out the door immediately to flag a cab to take her to the gym. And so it's the ritual she talks about. And for a writer, I found it very difficult to blend writing with my work for my clients. It was almost like a left brain, right brain thing. I could not switch back and forth. And so the only way I was able to write was to disappear for a weekend and go into this creative mode where I could stay there for a few days, and I loved that. That was such a wonderful experience. But even creativity, we just have to work at it and practice, and then it gets easier. And I thought that was an exciting message, too.
Very good. Well, I'm loving this interview, Donna. Donna Skeels Cygan is our guest. Her book is called The Joy of Financial Security, The Art and Science of Becoming Happier, Managing Your Money Wisely, and Creating a Secure Financial Future. And she is quoted in the biggies, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Forbes, Kiplinger's, and she is one of the top financial advisors in the U.S. and is also now advising us on our own lives and even some of the psychological parts of it or emotional parts. Let's take a couple of phone calls, if you don't mind, Donna, and then we'll give information on how the book can be purchased. Good morning. You're on the air with Donna Skeels Cygan.
Good morning, Donna. I am calling in reference to the way things are now for senior citizens. It wasn't that long ago where you were earning enough interest in your CDs or savings or whatever that you could grow your nest egg and still have some money aside to either put down for a new car or take a trip or something like that. But today, when you're looking at 1 year CD paying 0.30% interest, it's not even anywhere near keeping up with inflation. Now you say, oh, well, you have to invest. Yeah, I look in there with investing and even going into annuities. They have more fees and tag-ons than Carter's got little liver pills, and the same thing now with the banks. There's a rumor going around saying that the banks are going to start charging a fee to keep your money safe in the bank. Never mind paying interest. Now, this certainly does not help the economy. Basically, what it does is it's doing away with a class of citizens, the senior citizens that were able to maybe take a trip now and then. They just don't do it anymore. My newest car is 8 years old, and the way things are going, I'm going to keep it for another 8 years. I also have a 10-year-old car. Well, it's actually 11 years old now. But the thing is, I would like to hear what you have to say about that. I mean, it's so horrendous out there when they hit you with these fees and there's no guarantees. It's like the old West stories when it comes to finances. Unless you're connected to Bernanke somehow or the other, they're the only ones making millions.
Well, let me tackle
the insiders in Wall Street. I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let me tackle a few of those, and I should have been taking notes. I know I'm going to forget a few of them. But it's a great question, and I wish I had a really, wonderful solution, and I don't, to the interest rates today. So the interest rates are incredibly low because of the financial crisis that occurred in '08 and the Federal Reserve stepping in and doing this tapering, which definitely benefited the stock market and very much hurt our senior citizens because interest rates just plummeted to almost zero. So to me, that's kind of the background of the issue. I think if the Fed cuts back on their tapering as they're planning to do, we might see those interest rates rise a little bit. I certainly hope so. And your comment about a car, let me just touch on that one. I actually recommend that people keep a car 8 years. They plan to keep it 8 years, and when it gets to 8, they stretch to 10, and they stretch it to 12. If they can stretch it to 15, that's even better. So I am a huge fan of keeping a car for a very long time. To me, cars, needing new cars, and then credit card bills that are carried from month to month, those are the two killers for retirement, in my opinion. So, I would embrace the fact that your car is already old, and hopefully it'll last several more years, and you can kind of enjoy that and know that you're living within your means and you're not making the mistake many younger people are, which is living beyond their means. And I guess I would say also the '08 crisis, I talk in the book, The Joy of Financial Security, about the background of the '08 crisis, and I think it's deplorable what led up to that, and Wall Street has a black eye because of it, and rightly so. And that hasn't changed much, unfortunately. There's still not laws in effect that protect the individual investor, and I'm all in favor of those laws, but they haven't happened. But In terms of interest rates, I hope that banks will start recognizing that they can pay a higher interest rate on savings accounts and CDs. And so you do need to shop around. I'm not saying that there's a wonderful rate out there at this point, but, just keep watching. I would, save a little bit for those trips that you want to do. I totally understand that, and I know how difficult it is. I think you're on the right track. You've got a good attitude. In terms of the car, I actually encourage people to kind of play this game with the idea of keeping up with the Joneses. And I don't think you're describing that issue, but younger people are definitely impacted by it. So here's what I recommend if this works for you. You have a neighbor who has a new car in their driveway, and maybe they have a bigger house than you, and you see toys going in the door, big electronics, that kind of thing. If you can kind of envision them that they're probably hunched over their dining room table at night trying to figure out how to pay their bills, and so yes, they look like they're wealthy, they look like they're wealthier than other people, but they're paying a huge price emotionally for that. That kind of can lead you to the point of thinking, I'm living within my means. I don't have all those toys. I don't have a new car, but I'm perfectly happy with my old car. It runs great, and kind of change your attitude, reframe that attitude about that. I think that's powerful. And then you can also pass that down to the kids and grandkids, and you can have wonderful conversations with the grandkids about how important it is to save and save for college, save for retirement, live within your means, and avoid that pressure to keep up with the Joneses. So there are some positive messages that can come out of it, and hopefully interest rates will go up and it'll make everything better in the new year.
Wow, so insightful.
And the book is a great form of guidance as well. Donna, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. I have a copy of The Joy of Financial Security. It's a beautiful hardcover book that Donna has worked really hard on and now is working just as hard to market it. So we want to get the word out about the book. I'll give the copy I have away if you call me and ask for it. Donna, the rest of us have to go buy it. Do you have a website you want to share with us?
It's, you can get it through my website, and my website is full of tools and all kinds of helpful information. So I would go there. It's www.joyoffinancialsecurity.com. The book is also available on Amazon. I believe it's barnesandnobles.com, and also local bookstores. And if you support your local bookstores and they don't have it in stock, ask them to bring it in. It's definitely in the distribution channel so they can access it.
All right. The phone lit up, by the way, as soon as I offered it. So let me give it away to one listener. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Oh, good morning. It's Lauren, and I'll give it for someone else. I just love your idea of balance, and green promotes creativity and balance, and getting out in nature, and that can help us get more green. So I love all your ideas, and I'll go buy it. I'll leave the book for someone else. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll give it away to somebody else. Thank you so much. Let me click one more button and find somebody else. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Betty.
Betty, you've got it. It'll be waiting for you.
Thanks.
All right, you're welcome. That was short and sweet. Donna Skeels Cygan, Cygan, if you're looking Donna up online. Her website is joyoffinancialsecurity.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and I guess you can get it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the other places as well, correct?
Yes.
Donna, thank you for the great interview, and have a great new year.
Thank you. And Larry, thanks so much. And Robin, thank you, too. I just really enjoyed being on your show and wish you a very happy new year, and your listeners, too.
Thank you so much. We will take a little break and be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman.